Hi, and welcome to Linda's Take. Today we are going to look at the Ferrante and Dahl consultants, and I've already downloaded the information from Cengage for this assignment. So let's take a look at the Excel starter file. You can see when you first download it, you're going to have this protected view, and this is just something that protects you. If you're not sure where your files are coming from, then you want to take a few minutes to look over the files to see if it's really something that you want to enable to edit on your computer. Everything for my class is okay, so I'm going to enable editing. The next thing you want to do is make sure that your name appears here on the documentation folder. If it doesn't, then re-download it again. If you still don't see your name there, then you'll need to reach out to your instructor. Once that has all been verified, you're going to click upon the File tab, and we need to save this with a new name. So I'm going to come down here to Save As. Now remember the difference between Save and Save As. If you are not going to change the name, if you are not going to change the location, then you can use the Save. If you're wanting to change the location of your document on your computer or the name of your document on your computer, then you want to choose the Save As. I'm going to choose the Save As. I always go to Browse because that way I can tell it exactly where I want it to go on my computer. I'm going to come up here to my desktop, and you can see I have my name here listed in my file, and I have a 1 and then 1 in parentheses. Now what that 1 in parentheses means is that this is the copy of it. I've already downloaded this one, so this is letting me know there's a copy here. But I want to change this 1, and I want to change it to a 2. Now you can see I already have this file on here with a 2, and that's fine, because when I click Save here, it's going to tell me this already exists. Do you want to replace it? And in my case, yes, I do. I want to replace it. And now I've got my file saved with the correct name. Now I am ready to go into my instructions that I downloaded and begin working on my project. Now when you have your project steps, there's a couple of things that you want to look at. One, you want to make sure that you read the whole step completely. Don't just do a speed thing and say, okay, I'm going to do this. Make sure that you read it, read every word in it, because sometimes there's going to be 2 or 3 different things that you need to do on each step. So make sure that you read through them. Second, if you have questions as you're going through your assignments, if you're not sure how to do it, you can always refer back to your e-text for help with that. And for my students, you can also use Google. Go in and do a Google search. How do I cut a worksheet subtitle? There's lots of information out there, so don't be afraid to use your resources. For my students, this is not a test. You can use your e-text for this. You can use your Google for this. If you have questions as you're going through the assignments, as always, feel free to reach out to me for help. So let's see what we're doing here in step 1. It says we're an associate consultant. We're handling some accounts in the Northeast region of the United States, and we need help. Somebody has asked for our help in completing the worksheet. So we want to go to the current accounts worksheet. So down here at the bottom, you can see we have a documentation worksheet, and we also have the current accounts worksheet. We want to go to the current accounts worksheet, and to do that, we're just going to click on the tab, and that's going to open up that worksheet. So always make sure that you're on the correct tab for your assignment. Now we want to cut the worksheet title from E2 and paste it in A2. So basically what we're doing is when you cut something from a document, then you're actually removing it from that location and you're pasting it someplace new. Now when you're copying, you're leaving the information in that same cell. So in this particular one, in step 1, you're going to be cutting information from one cell. But in project 2, you're going to be copying it and then clearing it. So make sure that you're doing it in the correct procedure. So if we go to cell E2, see here we've got our columns with our letters, and then we've got our rows with our numbers, and here in E2 we have current accounts. If we come up here in the clipboard area and hit cut, see it automatically puts that running line around our cell to show our active cell. And so now we want to go to A2, so we're going to select that and make that our active cell. And now we're going to paste. So I can just right click and paste. And you can see it's gone from E2 and it's now in A2. Now, just because you see information here, it looks like it's in A2 and B2. You'll notice when I select A2, I have current accounts up here. If I select B2, there's nothing there. So you really don't have any information in B2. It's all in A2. So don't get confused with that. When you select a cell and click on it, up here, it's going to tell you exactly in your formula bar what is actually in that cell. So make sure you pay attention to that. Now, in step 2, you're actually going to copy. So you're going to go to J2, and in this case now you're going to copy it, and it's going to tell you to paste it in J11, and then clear the contents of J2. So if I copy this time, I'm going to come up here and hit the copy from J2. Now if I go to J11 and paste, I'm just going to right click and paste. It's going to be the first one here in my right click. And you can see now I have it in both locations. But if I want to clear the entry and information in J2 right up here on my Home tab, I have this clear option, and I can clear all, clear format, or clear contents. And in this case, my instructions tell me to clear the contents. So as you're working through this assignment and doing the work, make sure you pay attention to the details. Step 3, it wants us to enter some text information. So I'm going to go to C3, and I'm going to enter company. Make sure you spell stuff correctly. If you don't spell it correctly, you are going to get it counted wrong in Cengage because it is looking for the exact word. So make sure that you spell information correctly, that you enter correct numbers. Now for number 4, we want to change the font size. Now when we're talking about the font, we're talking about the text, what it looks like, and it wants us to change the font size. Up here on our Home tab in the font area, you can see we have our different font names you can choose, and here is our font size. Right next to the font size, you have this A. Every time you click on that A, it's going to make your font size larger. And here's the smaller A, so when I click on that, you guessed it, it's going to make my font size smaller. So in number 4, it wants you to change the font size, so you're going to select that range. So in this case, it's A3 to J3, so I'm going to select A3, and with my mouse looking like that white plus sign, I'm going to come down here to J3, and then I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to change the font size to what your instructions tell you to change the font size to. So make sure you have your instructions pulled up as you're working on this. Then it wants us to bold. So right here we have our bold. So make sure that you increase the font size, and then you're going to make it bold. So make sure you look at your instructions to see exactly what size that font is supposed to be in step 4. Now columns G through J, you can see here follow-up is kind of squished in here, and you can see here in J3 our column headings go clear over into K, and then our last contacted here in G takes up a lot more space than what we need the column to take up space. So we want to use something called the AutoFit to resize our columns just to make sure they have their best fit. There's a keyboard shortcut to do this, and that's just using our mouse here actually. So if I move my mouse over G, you can see I have this downward arrow. And if I was to select it right now with my left mouse key, just like this, it's going to select that entire column. I don't want to select that entire column, so I'm going to deselect it over here. But if I move my mouse in between G and H up here, you can see how my mouse changes. Now I have that vertical bar and my horizontal arrows. If I double click it when my mouse looks like this, it's going to automatically make my column as wide as the widest entry. So I'm going to do that now with H. I'm going to move my mouse over between H and I and double click. Do the same thing between I and J, and I'm going to do the same thing between J and K. And that is a shortcut in a way you can make your columns be auto fit. You can do the same thing with the rows if you were so asked to do so. Now in step 5, we want to apply the text number format to the range A4 through A9. So again, the first thing that we want to do is select the range. So anytime you have your column names or your cell names with a semicolon in between them, it's telling you to select a range. So if I want to select the range A4 to A9, I'm going to go up to A4 and I'm going to click it and have that white fat plus sign, and then I'm going to scroll down to A9 and I have now selected that range of column. Now the number formats. Up here in the number grouping on our Home tab, we have different formats that we can choose from. Right now, this is all set as a general format. If I click on this arrow right here, you can see I have all these different formats that I can choose from. So if I have a calendar, I could put it as a short date, a long date, I can set it as time. Accounting, we'll put the $ in there. Currency is going to put the currency. Again, if you're you could do pesos and euros and different things like that, and it will put that specific icon on there for you as well. The number, anytime you are adding some information, then you want to make it into a number. So if you're putting like a phone number in there, you don't usually add phone numbers together. So that is either going to be general or you're going to change it to text. So you only use the number format if you're actually going to do some type of mathematical equation. This is asking us to make this into our text because we're not doing any mathematical equations with this. These are ID numbers, and we want them to be text. We're going to come down here and select text. And you can see as soon as I made it text, it aligned it with the left side of my cell. Numbers align with the right side of the cell. And I think that might be a quiz question. So now in step 6, in E5, so I'm going to come over here first and I'm going to select E5. And you can see we want to change this. We don't have everything in here. It just says networking con. And we really want this to say networking conference. So I'm going to double click right here after the N. And so you can see I have my insertion point blinking here. And as soon as I type an F, and I can keep typing it and just change that to networking conference so I have the right information in there. One of the items that makes Excel very powerful is the ability it has to use formulas to add things up, or in this case to add dates. So for this one, our company has a policy to contact their clients once every 2 weeks. So you can see right here, it was last contacted Janet on February 18th. And we want to add 14 days to that date, so we know when we need to follow up with Janet. Now, we could get a calendar out and add 14 to 18, or if you're good with math, do it in your head. I'm not real good with my math. I'm going to use a formula. When you're using a formula in Excel, the first thing you need to do is hit the equal key. And when you hit the equal key on your keyboard, you are telling Excel that I am going to be creating a formula. So I'm going to tell Excel to add something or subtract something or to do something in here. And in this case, I want you to take this date, so I'm going to select G4. I want whatever date is in G4, and I'm going to add, so I'm going to do the plus sign, and I'm going to add 14. So you can see when you're working with formulas, if you have a cell name or a cell address, you want to use that whenever possible. So in this case, I have equals G4 plus 14. And when I come up here and hit this checkbox to enter or put enter on my keyboard, I can use either one. It's going to let me know that 14 days from February 18th of 2024 is actually March 3rd. I didn't have to get my calendar out. Didn't have to try to figure out how many days are there in February. Is it a leap year or not a leap year? It's going to automatically do it for me. So I'm going to do this all the way down in my age column. And you can do it one at a time if you want to, but we can actually copy the formula down. So when I have my formula right up here in H4, I have this little box right in the corner, that little green box there. If I move my mouse over it, you can see it changes to just a regular plus sign. And now I've selected my fill handle for that cell. So if I click with my left mouse key and drag down, I am going to be copying that formula down to H9. If I select H5, you can see my formula there is now G5 plus 14. Your formula bar is going to show you what the formula is that is feeding that information in that cell. So if I come down here to H6, you can see it says take G6 plus 14. When I copied that down, I didn't change that to G5 or G6. It automatically did it for me because it copies formulas down with the reference to the value that you're copying it down to. So if I'm copying it down, it's going to change the reference to a different number. So it's going to keep it in G, but now it's going to change it to G5, G6, G7. If I was copying it over, it would change the column numbers as I copied the formula over. So it does that for me automatically. So we have all of our follow-up dates entered in here. And now in J6, it gives us a number that we want to enter in. So you can see right now our J6 is empty. So we need to add a number. Again, make sure you put the correct number in or Cengage is going to count you incorrect. So it's 34675. I haven't actually entered this number in my cell until I either hit this check mark up here or I hit enter on my keyboard. And now I have that number entered in. And you can see it's lined up with my right side of my cell, and I have my $sign in because it is set up. I believe that's the accounting number format. Yeah. So if I make a mistake, so I can sit on this accounting number format, and you can see it changed the number. Right up here on my toolbar, I have my undo and redo. So I can undo, and it's going to change it. Okay. So your undo and redo are your friends. Okay. So what happened is when I hit that accounting number format, it automatically added 2 decimal points to my information. So right here, I have a decrease and increase decimal. So if you want to get rid of decimals or add decimals, you're going to use these little objects right here. So I have step 9, I'm ready for step 10. In step 10, I want to enter a formula that uses the sum function. So I'm going to make J10 my active cell. So the first thing you want to do when you're working in Excel is you want to look at what cell is it asking me to put information to. In this case, it's J10, and I want to enter a formula that uses the sum function. So up here, when we messed with the date, we entered a formula. A function is a predefined formula that Excel has already created for us. So up here on the Formulas tab, I have all of these different formulas that I can choose from. Now, we can get real detailed with logical. You can do accounting in here, lots of different stuff. We just are going to use the sum function. We just wanted to add some information up for us. So right here we have our sum, and when we select that sum, you can see it automatically puts in our cell equals the sum, and it gives us a range. We can also see what range it's adding up. You want to pay attention to that range because Excel is assuming that you want the range J4 through J9. Which, for this particular assignment, yes, that's correct. But you always want to make sure that it has the correct range that you're looking for. You can always just type it in and change it if you need to. And again, to enter that formula, I'm going to hit the check button. And so you can see I've added that up. It's 310,140. So in J10, it shows me the results. And up here in the formula bar, it gives me my formula. That is what is feeding that information in J10. So finally, in step 11, I want to change the orientation of the worksheet to landscape. So landscape, there's 2 different orientations you can put with your documents. You can make them landscape, or you can make them portrait. And portrait's like 8 by 10, a landscape would be like 10 by 8. So to do that, there's lots of different ways we can do it. By far the easiest way to do it is up here on the File tab. I'm going to come down to Print. Right here is my orientation. If I select this, I'm going to change it and make sure that it's a landscape. And then here's my scaling. Right now, you can see if I was to print this, it would print it on 2 pages. So here's what page 1 looks like, and here's what page 2 looks like. When you're printing stuff in Excel, you want to make sure all of the columns appear on the same page. It's usually the best way to do it. So right here in this print format, I can change this, and I can fit sheet on 1 page, and it's automatically going to change the margins and the font size, column widths, so that it all fits on 1 page. So now you can see we have page 1 of page 1. Now I'm going to click on this back arrow up here out of the print. You also have this page layout. This is also where you're can change the orientation of your page, and where you can click on this little icon right here to do page setup. So if you want to change the scaling, you can also do it from your ribbon right up here in the page layout. So you can do it 2 different ways. It's one of the great things about Microsoft Office programs. There is usually more than 1 way to complete the steps. Find the way that works the best for you. Finally, we can look at our instructions, and it's going to give us bring it over here. At the very bottom, it's going to give you an idea of what your final project should look like. Again, never just look at this to make the changes. You can look at it to see if it looks the same. And once you've finished with that, we're going to save this. I'm going to close this. And now you're ready to go back into your class, into Cengage, and resubmit it to see what your grade is. Now, if you're in my class, you can actually look over your graded report, and if you're happy with the grade, you're fine. If you want to make changes to your assignment, you can do so. You can change the original document and resubmit it for a higher grade, and you can do that up to 3 times. Your highest grade is what will count. Now reach out, and if you have any questions, I am here. I want you to be successful. You can also put something in the comments section in this video if you like, and I will get it that way. I hope you have some fun working with Excel, and I hope wherever you are in your life, you have some sunshine today. Have a great day. This is Linda Sessions from Linda's Take.